Hi, I'm Sherry Soria from Living Light International, and today I'm going to share with you chocolate lovers a tasty treat I know you're going to love. This is chocolate almond bark. You will need a blender and a food processor, but otherwise it's really simple to make. We're going to use 1.5 cups of cacao butter that's been warmed to a liquid, 3/4 of a cup of coconut sugar, although you could use other kinds of sugars if you prefer, 2 vanilla beans that have been scraped to remove the soft center paste, 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt, and I'm using Himalayan crystal salt. We're also going to use 2 1/3 cups of raw cacao powder, and here you can see I've divided it into half because we're going to put it in at different times. Also 1/4 of a cup of coconut nectar, or you could use agave nectar if you prefer, and some sort of nuts. I'm using almonds here. Here I have some soaked dehydrated almonds, and over here I have tamari almonds that have also been soaked and dehydrated. So let's get going. We're going to start by putting in our liquefied cacao butter into our high performance blender. And I want to scrape all of this out of here. You can do this in a regular blender if you want to. This first part of the recipe does call for a blender, but doesn't necessarily have to be a high performance blender. Then we're going to add our sugar, and as I said, this is a coconut sugar. And also we're going to scrape the center part out of this vanilla bean. And to do that, all we have to do is drag our knife right through at least the top part of a vanilla bean, and then open it up. You just use your knife, back of your knife, to open it up, just like that. And then using your knife, just reach in and scrape that center. It's kind of like caviar. It's very, very fine. They're actually the seeds of the vanilla pod. Vanilla is actually related to the orchid plant, and it's a delicious flavoring agent, of course. And if you wanted to, you could use powdered vanilla, or you could use a vanilla extract if you like. And don't throw these away, because these are great if you put them in your chai tea. I never throw away the husk, the outer part of the pod. Okay. Now we're going to add our last ingredient, which is just a hint of Himalayan crystal salt, and we'll blend this. We're going to start it on low because I don't want it to jump all over the place, just until it's smooth. Okay. Now the reason that I used a blender for this instead of putting it in my food processor is because when you put oils in a food processor, and this was primarily oil, it just splatters all over the place and actually even goes outside of the lid when the lid is even securely placed. So that's why we wanted to start it out in the blender. So now I'm going to add it to my food processor, and make sure you get all the sugar out of there. You want to make sure that you have a nice sweet. It's actually going to be a bittersweet chocolate. It's not going to be a super sweet chocolate. And I'll just set that aside. And now I'm going to add half of my raw cacao powder. I'm going to place it in carefully because it really can splash all over the place. All right. And I'm going to blend that. And when I blend it, I want to be really careful that I don't blend it too hard, too fast. So I'm going to start with just a pulse. There we go. Now I can turn it on all the way. And next I'm going to add my coconut nectar. And this is a beautiful, smooth syrup that, again, is made from coconut. So both of the sugars that I'm using here are made from coconut. That's the coconut flour, actually. All right, and I'm going to scrape this down while I'm at it, just using the straight part of my spatula. and blend again. Once again, I'm starting it on, whoop! Could have started on pulse, but it started on its own. That's okay. And next, I will be adding the rest of my cacao powder. Again, I'm adding it to both portions carefully so it doesn't come back up on my face. And once again, I'm scraping it with the back of the spatula at the same time. Okay, beautiful. Okay, I'm going to scrape it down one more time just to make sure that I got all of that cacao powder completely blended in to my chocolate mixture here. It's almost there. So you see, it's actually really easy to do, even though you have to add different ingredients at different times. Okay, let's make sure that's nice and smooth. I'm going to use a clean spatula here just so I can really see that it's nice and smooth and not gritty, and it is. So I'll remove the S-blade. That really smells good. Now, if you want to make this sweeter, of course you can. You probably will need to use a combination of the dry and the liquid ingredients, so sweetener, so that you don't have too much of one or the other. You just want to have a nice balance of sweeteners. So now I'm going to place my mixture on a Paraflex sheet. So it's easy for you to take the sheet off of the bark once it's chilled. My suggestion is that you spread this fairly thin, but not too thin because you don't want it to break. Once it's chilled, it can break pretty easily. Okay. And I'm going to finish it off actually with a small offset spatula. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but I do want it to be even. The edges can be ragged, that's not a big problem, but I don't want big mountains and valleys. I want it to be pretty consistent in terms of the thickness of the bark. I would say about 1/4 of an inch is the perfect depth here. Once I have it spread the way I want it, then I'm going to score it into whatever shapes I want. You can figure out what shapes you like here. So I kind of like the idea of having odd shapes. So I'm going to cut them at an angle, just like that. That's kind of fun for me. And then I'm going to place my almonds on it, and I like the idea of having an almond that is a little bit salty as well, so I'm going to place my tamari almonds on here. And these are almonds that were first soaked in purified water, and then after that they were tossed in, drained of course, and then tossed in tamari, and then after they were tossed in the tamari, then they were dehydrated again until they were crispy. And I'm just pressing these in to place now, just like that. And this is going to go into the refrigerator for about an hour, just until it chills. And then because I've scored these, I'll be able to break them really easily. So come back in an hour and see how they are. Well, it's been an hour, and here is our chocolate almond bark. It's nice and firm now, so we can remove it from the Paraflex sheet. And you'll see that it really makes it a lot easier to remove. The fact that we've scored it first, and you can see they're all kind of different shapes and sizes, which you want with a chocolate bark like this. Because we used cacao butter instead of coconut butter, it's not going to melt as easily, which is nice because we can put it on a dish like this and let it sit out for a party. You can store this bark in a sealed container in the pantry for about a month, but I can tell you that I don't think it'll last that long. If you're a chocolate lover and you have chocolate lovers in your house, it's going to go a lot faster than that. If you want more delicious recipes like this that are fun and easy to make, go to our website, rawfoodchef.com, or check out our Facebook page, Raw Food for Dummies, and you'll find videos and quick tips that you can watch in just a minute. I'm Sherry Soria from Living Light Culinary Institute, helping you make healthy living delicious.